Story. Place your rocks first. One morning, a professor walked into the classroom carrying a large empty glass jar. As always, there was a spark of curiosity in his eyes. The students looked at him with interest, wondering what kind of lesson he had planned this time. The professor placed the jar on the table and took out a few large rocks, each roughly the size of a fist. He carefully put them into the jar one by one until no more could fit. Then he looked up and asked, "Is the jar full now?" The students examined it. Since no more rocks could fit, Mose nodded and said, "Yes, sir, it's full." The professor smiled, then reached under the table and brought out a bag of small pebbles. He poured them into the jar and gently shook it. The pebbles rolled into the gaps between the large rocks. Again he asked, "Now, is it full?" Some students hesitated this time, but most said, "Yes, now it's definitely full." Smiling again, the professor took out another bag, this one filled with sand. He poured it into the jar. The sand filled all the remaining spaces between the rocks and pebbles. Then he asked once more, "Is it full now?" The class laughed softly and said, "Probably." Finally, the professor took a cup of water and slowly poured it into the jar. The water seeped through the sand, filling every last bit of space. He nodded and said, "Now the jar is truly full." The professor looked around the room and said, "This jar represents your life. The big rocks are the most important things: your family, your health, your relationships, your dreams, your purpose. Even if you lose everything else, as long as you still have these, your life will still feel whole," he continued. The pebbles represent other important things: your career, your house, your degree, your achievements. They matter too, but not as much as the rocks. The sand represents all the small stuff, the daily distractions, endless scrolling, and unimportant things that fill our time but add little meaning. He looked at the class and said, "If you fill the jar with sand or pebbles first, there will be no space left for the rocks. The same is true in life. If you spend all your energy on the little things, you'll never have room for what truly matters: your family, your health, your passion, your dreams." The classroom was silent. Every student was listening deeply as the professor went on, "Your rocks are the foundation of your life. If you forget their value and don't prioritize them, one day you may realize that you've left out the most important parts of living." Then he smiled and added, "So always place your rocks first. They give your life structure, meaning, and purpose. Never let the pebbles and sand take their place. Because when your journey ends, it's the weight of those rocks, the love, the health, the dreams you built, that will define the true value of your life." Just then, one student raised their hand and asked, "Sir, what about the water? What does that represent?" The professor smiled warmly and said, "Good question. The water reminds us that no matter how busy life gets, there's always room for small moments of joy, like having tea with a friend, watching a sunset, or sharing a laugh with someone you love." He paused for a moment, then continued, "We all try to balance our priorities minus work, family goals within the limited hours of each day. But in doing so, we often forget what truly matters. Life, just like this jar, isn't limitless. If you fill it first with the sand and pebbles, you'll never have room for the rocks. Finally, he said, "So, my advice is simple. Place your rocks first. Your family, your health, your dreams, your love. Give them your time and attention. Make time for your loved ones. Take care of your body and mind. Follow your passions with courage. And in between, leave space for learning, growth, kindness, and those little joys, the water moments that make life beautiful." He looked at the class and smiled one last time. The sand and pebbles, they're part of life too. But don't let them replace the rocks. In the end, life isn't about being busy. It's about being meaningful. It's not about counting the days, but making the days count. He gently placed the jar back on the table and said, "Create balance between the rocks. The pebbles, the sand, and the water. That's the secret to a life that feels truly full." If this story touched your heart, please like and share it so others can hear this message too. And remember, before you fill your jar, ask yourself, have I placed my rocks first?